So, welcome back to another Half and Half Scarf football podcast with me, Nick, and my mate Dom. Now, today it's not just us, we've got two very special guests, which we'll talk about shortly. But this is already episode 36. Now, Dom's getting excited to get to episode 40. He can say, as usual, I didn't believe we'd done 40 already, but we're not quite there yet, Dom. So, you have to bite your tongue this morning. Today is very interesting. We're introducing a very special EFL partner. More on that later. And these guys are going to be our chosen fan support partner as the Half and Half Scarf podcast for the year. And it's a company called huddle-Up. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you as ever to my mate Dom. And we'll come back to Connor and Adam from huddle-Up in a second. Dom, we always do the shirts for those people watching on YouTube. I'm going to go first because mine is sensational. Mine is one of Borough's best away shirts of the recent sort of history. It's based on the classic black and blue, which is always my favourite away shirt type. And I love it. It's a little bit tight. I might not wear it on a match day. I might wear it underneath something on a match day, but I don't think I'll be wearing it on. There'll be nothing underneath it, to be fair. It's a little bit shrunk in the wash, I think, because I haven't worn it for a while. Dom, yours is a classic Malmo. I know you've got to explain. You're an Everton fan, but you're a Borough fan first and foremost. Season ticket holder at Everton, but you've Swedish connections with your family, so you're a Malmo man. You should have a third scarf, mate.
Good mate, yeah. It's my wife's team because my wife's half Swedish. So Malmo is our Swedish team. It's her Swedish team. This is
Nice
the 2000. Yeah, this is the 2016 shirt when they won the league, and we were over there to watch that. And yeah, just a nice kit. I think I was saying off air, I subliminally went for this morning because it's a lovely sky blue. It reminds me of a sky blue day, which I'm hankering for at the moment, bearing in mind it hasn't stopped raining for a month. So it's what my arm just reached for and my hand just reached for and grabbed. It was like, yeah, I'm just, longing for some nice weather.
Okay, right. Well, let's move on from that. We've got two guys to introduce to our audience. Enough of the shirt. So we've got two guys, Adam Franklin and Connor Bottrell from a company called huddle-Up. A very warm welcome from Dom and I, guys. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, both.
Perfect. Thanks for having us. Cheers.
That's okay. More on huddle-Up and the relationship with us and football fans in the EFL in a moment. But if you can remind me, I'm quite avid on social media, follow a lot of stuff, anything to do with football or whatever. How did this come about? You posted something, didn't you, that I thought, oh, let's explore that. Who posted? Was it Adam or Connor? You posted something that hooked me in.
Yeah, it was me, Adam. Yeah, I think I just put up something quite ambiguous. Does anybody support an EFL club? And then I got an absolute bombardment of people commenting. So yeah, we had people from Exeter up to Borough, and yeah, a load of people engaged with it. So it's nice.
Excellent. Well, obviously you're active on social media, and the hook was there. I mean, it's quite a good open question, isn't it? Does anyone support an EFL club? Right, and I did respond. And obviously with the podcast, we've got a lot of people that support EFL clubs who are part of the podcast sort of fraternity, as it were. But without giving too much away too early, because we're going to explore this in a bit of detail, can you either of you tell us and the audience a bit about what huddle-Up is about, just so I get a headline as to, why the EFL, why huddle-Up, that kind of thing, just without giving too much away too early. Who wants to answer that one?
Yeah, Con, you can go if you want, mate.
So essentially, guys, we're all about mental health and wellbeing, just supporting as many people as we can nationwide. So we started in the corporate space, moved over now to sports teams. We're football fans, football people. So started with football. We do have something for cricket, rugby, and golf as well. But football's where our heart is, guys, essentially. So the more football clubs we can get into and penetrate there and help their supporters, the better. But yeah, that's essentially where it stemmed from. There's an email inbox that we'll obviously go into later on, and a few of the add-ons that come with the service as well. But yeah, essentially the heart of huddle-Up is just helping as many people get access to mental health and wellbeing support within an SLA and a price point that is reachable for everybody. I think everybody knows about NHS wait lines and charity wait lines and things like that. They're just it's crazy out there. So yeah, that's our job. That's our purpose, to get people the right sort of level of support and in front of relevant levels of support as quick as we can, essentially.
Okay, I mean that's really brilliant, and I love the fact that you've transitioned to sport as a natural basis for, as football fans yourselves? Actually, let's explore that very briefly. And in one word answers, Connor, who do you support?
No, Man United.
Why have we got him on the pod, Dom?
No, we should have researched this beforehand, shouldn't we?
We should have done, really. Yeah, Adam?
Chelsea.
Fuck it, Jesus Christ. Okay.
And he said he never swears.
Very early on to drop the F-bomb, but I mean, we should. I think we did, but we still liked them, didn't we, Dom? Is that how we did.
We had a meeting with these two a few weeks ago, liked them instantly, and we were a bit bemused by their football support and teams, but we did like them. So yeah, you have to forgive them, guys and dolls, for supporting Chelsea, Man United, but we've all got our frailties in life.
True. I'll be honest with you, without being flippant about it, it's no wonder you've set up a mental health support program, really. But moving on that basis, actually, football being a sort of tribal thing, and historically predominantly men, but it's brilliant now. You see so many families and young people coming through, whatever. Is it a good connection because of the tribalism and we don't talk about stuff very easily, and it's a good place to do it? Was that kind of part of the catalyst for you thinking about the transition from corporate to sport, and particularly football?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in quite simple terms, Nick, the demographic of people that are out there committing suicide align perfectly, or it's not perfectly, but align exactly with the demographic that go to football grounds, essentially. So that seems to be the biggest pressure point across the country at the moment. Typically 25 to 55-year-old males that are committing suicide at a rate of knots, without scaremongering people. That they are the facts. And that's something that we believe it has to change, right? You're talking 1-2 a day in certain that are connected to football. I mean, we're big in the construction industry as well. That's one a day, factually. Obviously, football is a little bit more difficult to get the granular data on, but it is that demographic of people that these awful things are happening to, and it's not just the individuals we're losing; it's the effects of suicide after that, to the families, friends, etc., to the football clubs as well. I mean, I don't know about you, but I see so many football games now on the TV, and fans are clapping every sort of 7, 8, 9 minutes for certain fans that have lost their lives, that have been in the stadium for many years. So if we can help, I mean, like Adam and I always say, we might not change the world, but if we can save one life through this, then that's our job done, essentially. So like I say, we're football people at heart, so it pulls on our heartstrings to get involved with the sport that we've loved for so long. So that's one thing, but it does align, as I say, perfect's the wrong word, but it runs perfectly alongside the sort of demographic out there that we think need our help more than any other, essentially.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Dom, thoughts on that in terms of the demographic and the kind of the exposure to risk of suicide and things? The stats are terrible, aren't they? They're really. Yeah,
Connor's absolutely spot on. I remember you might have seen it. I can't remember if it was a football run advertisement, and it was around mental health and targeting football fans, and it was. Connor summed it up perfectly there, where you don't realise who it affects, and it was this visual image of like a row of seats at a football ground, and you have this guy who's there laughing and joking every week and happy and life and soul of the party, and then the guy next to him is really miserable and somber and doesn't say a word to anyone, and you kind of get the impression it's him that's struggling. And then one week the guy who's laughy, jokey, giggling isn't there anymore, and it's like there's signs there about how he's passed away and he's committed suicide. So it also resonates with the fact that you do always find sometimes that it's people who you think are really, really happy and bubbly on the surface, and actually they're the ones that are really struggling. And I think football is a brilliant place to get it into, because football is very social. It's a pastime. You get people relaxed, wanting to enjoy their day with their family. So it also opens up for me this ability of perhaps when they're walking, if you're within like a fan zone of a football ground and they see you and what you're offering, it might just break down a barrier in their head where they go, do you know what, I'm going to go and speak to these people, because they're in that frame of mind where they feel they can probably tackle it. Maybe it's not like a bad day at work or struggling on a night time. They're actually, it's an occasion where in their head they think, I can deal with this. I can speak to someone.
We'll talk about what the match day looks like and the support, etc., shortly. Something I want to explore first is you mentioned off air in our previous meeting that initially you concentrate on the EFL Championship clubs. First of all, why is that? And secondly, if you get a surge of interest from the 72, as they're often referred to, would that present any problems in terms of scaling and resourcing what you're offering? So why the EFL 72 first? And then, if you do get that traction, how does that work really? So, Adam, do you want to give us a...
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just from a care side, I think, Nick. Connor, I think you've been quite an advocate and quite vocal about it. So not to just chuck the question away, not because I don't want to talk, but Connor's been pushing this quite a lot through because he's having the conversation directly with clubs, and I think it's from giving to roots, isn't it, Connor?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, I just think we support two Premier League clubs, but I mean, trying to even get a match day ticket at Manchester United now is an absolute disgrace. They don't want fans in there of the local area anymore. That's a conversation, a rabbit hole that we don't need to go down, obviously. But yeah, I mean, obviously it works for everybody. Mental health is mental health, but we find the EFL Championship and the National League clubs have been so much more receptive to the service because they just seem to care about their community more. They do want to help their people. I think Premier League clubs, it's just let's get who we can get through the door, and the day trippers type thing that are going to spend God knows what on a ticket, God knows what in the club shop, and go from there. And in terms of scaling up, we've got a huge sort of resource locally that we use. We've got a team of that we call huddle buddies to sort of take the stigma away from counselling, therapy. They are all trained to the relevant level to be able to deal with any issues that we do get through the inbox. But then we're ready to pull the trigger on plenty of sort of places up and down the country. We talk to universities regularly, and there's so much sort of untapped resource of people that can cover the level of support that we see come through our inbox quite regularly. I think 80 to 85% of the things that we deal with get categorized as sort of low level work-based stress, which council to level 4 can deal with. So yeah, we're ready to pull the trigger on resource nationwide. Naturally, people up in Middlesbrough are going to be dealing with different social issues to people in Kensington, so it's relevant for us to have the right people talking to the right people. It's absolutely pointless someone from Borough getting on a call with someone from South Kensington and trying to relate to them about economic issues. That's just fact, right? So and I think obviously that the comfortability about hearing and speaking to somebody with the same accent that has the same sort of, like I say, social economic issues, that know the town, know the city, know the community, that really helps too. Football clubs are the hub, we believe, of every community. So yeah, using you guys and football clubs to get out to these people is key.
I think certainly you're right on the EFL and Championship and National League level. We are the hub of the community. I do think community outreach programs are stronger at that level. I'm not saying that they don't do great work with foundations at Chelsea and Man United, whatever, but your community is international. The community is Man United's community is in Surrey, isn't it, for example? So just drop that one in. We've talked long and hard before on the podcast about tourists and all that kind of thing. So you're right, the clubs are not invested so much as they are. Middlesbrough got a brilliant community foundation. I think lots of other clubs are. Everton do great work in the community in the Premier League, but it's about, like you say, accessing the hub of that community at the right time, the right resource. So let's take that then, okay? Let's have a look at that in terms of get into the details of it. So I'm a fan. I'm feeling the pressure in some way. I've got some mental health or well-being challenges that, football might be my release for the week. It might be the thing that I think, right, I can't wait for the game. Or in some cases, actually, it could be part of the root cause. I've got a few friends genuinely who are Sheffield Wednesday fans, and they've been through a hell of a, their club have been through a hell of a turmoil, and that doesn't help them, as part of what is normally a joyous thing to support a football club. Has been terrible. But so if I'm on a match day at Middlesbrough, so we've got the stadium, we've got a fan zone, we've got concourses, we've got an area around the stadium you can walk around, we've got the fan shop, the club shop, and it's all pretty much self-contained on a big sort of it's not an island, is it? But it feels like an island just on the edge of the river. What am I going to see? What am I going to experience? How am I going to engage with huddle-Up? What would it look like to me as a fan? What are you going to be doing to raise that kind of awareness on the day? What would it look like at a club like Middlesbrough, for example?
Yeah, so there'll be the obvious posters, but the one thing we're trying to get away from, Nick, is that awareness piece, because awareness isn't good enough anymore. So there'll be bright orange on-side posters in and around the stadium, and will obviously be across the website. But actually on the day, each side of the ground for every club that we're working with, they're going to have a huge onside powered by a huddle-Up flag at each end, and it's going to be manned by a season ticket holder or a staff member from each club that we're going to train up to be a trained huddle buddy. So for people that don't feel comfortable coming through the email system, for people that don't feel comfortable reaching out and would rather do it in person, whether that be elderly, isolated, someone struggling to articulate, or anything really that don't want to go through technology to speak to someone, they can speak to a huddle buddy on the day at the flag point. Tell us what you're struggling with, and that person then becomes a live version of the email inbox, and they can filter that back through to Connor and the team. So it's a living, breathing, proactive version of all the things that don't work.
I love the idea that it's a season ticket holder or a local, somebody local trained and qualified, because that might be, you mentioned there, Connor, it might be more accessible. There's no correlation between Middlesbrough and South Kensington, as you mentioned earlier. But I like the idea of that. But the reality is, as well, is it might just give someone that spur of the moment, on the spot kind of, you know what? I might just go and talk to someone. How do you see that from a Borough point of view as a match-going fan, Dom? I mean, there's often things like food banks, isn't there, that are around
Yeah.
the stadium and they're always really they're well publicised, but they're also well kind of supported. What's your view on that as a Borough fan on a match-going day, Dom?
I love that idea. I think it resonates hugely with me, and I think it's very powerful. And I think the key bit that Adam said is around getting a season ticket holder or staff member trained up, because I think I fully agree with what Connor said. I think there's something really comforting about when if you've taken the step to actually approach the stand to speak to someone. It is actually really nice listening to someone who's got the same accent as you, who is from your area. I do think that resonates very strongly. I think it's a very powerful message. And I think depending on how that person's trained, it's how they welcome that person into, coming to speak to them and getting them on board and saying, yeah, everything's okay, we can help you. I love that idea. I think that's really, really strong. It doesn't feel like it's someone there who is maybe just manning a stand and doesn't really know anything about the organisation. It's just like, oh, okay, here's our details. Off you go and do it online, or here's what we're all about and everything else. And it feels a little bit like there's a step missing. I think the fact that you've got someone who's trained, who can actually instantly start dealing with it on the spot and take it from there, that's the thing that's really powerful for me, because I think it means that that person feels that if they've taken the step to speak to somebody, it's actually been worth their while straight away, and they're dealing with it there and then. So yeah, I like that a lot.
I like the phrase "huddle buddy" as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know why it's got me in my head singing "Do the Hucklebuck" by whoever it was that sang that piece of crap in the 80s. But I apologise for that. But it's got me. But "huddle buddy" is great. But just a very brief one, Adam. You mentioned onside, and so onside and huddle up. Just so that any confusion, what's the onside bit? Sorry.
Yeah, so huddle-Up's the framework at the centre of it. That's what Connor and I started as a corporate arm. But bringing that into football clubs, it just looked like a HR tick box to fans, because with the new IFR regulations coming in, I think if they started saying we're bringing in someone that looks after, Coca-Cola and Weetabix, it just looks like another corporate tick box. So we've branded onside for football, and then we've got try line for rugby, boundaries for cricket, and fairway for golf. So it's the same framework. It's just branded differently for each sport, because it just resonates better with people, and it just lands a lot better with the fan base.
No problem. Without breaching any confidentialities, I know you've done a lot of work already, and whilst it's a relatively new initiative, how are you? How many clubs are you engaging with actively? Have you got any on board yet? What does it look like? I know you mentioned off air you've got some that you're going to be launching either before the end of the season or already getting into place for sort of August. What's the sort of numbers looking like already, guys? And how exciting is that?
Yeah, it's really exciting. So we've got 11 now for the start of next season. Hartlepool are live, ready, kicking, using the service. yeah, the team up there have been fantastic, and yeah, so they're live and ready to go. So if anybody wants to know how the framework's working, they can come through us or speak to the team at Hartlepool and find out how great it is. And they've bought into it so well, Nick, as well. You know, they've got a flood of people that want to get trained up and be there on match days. And the main thing for that is they've kind of said it doesn't have to start with mental health. You know, if someone says that was a rubbish result Wednesday, the skipper was rubbish, the manager needs sacking, and then suddenly it goes into, how are you at the minute, mate? Right, because you don't get that in the pub, right? You might say to your mate, "How you doing, mate? Yeah, good, thanks. You, pint of Stella," and then the conversation's done. But if you start with football at an onside flag, and then suddenly you go, how are you at the minute? You know what, mate? I'm not good. I'm skint. I'm struggling at home. Struggling at work, and it's just more of an organic thing than having a big Samaritans or Mind flag. You know it's mental health. You're not going to go there. So yeah, we've got 11 clubs ready to pull the plug on in May. A couple of them have got anniversaries. A couple of them have got schemes that they want to roll us out with him. But yeah, we're live with a few already as well.
Well, just so you're aware, and you might not be aware of this, Middlesbrough are celebrating their 150th anniversary in 2026. There's a lot going on around that. I'm hopeful as a result of today, we can open some doors into Middlesbrough. I'll ask about sort of contact details for other clubs in a minute for you. But with the 150th anniversary, we've got a special commemorative badge that's had a lot of social media coverage. We've got a lot of things to celebrate. So I think, you know, sometimes tying into something's quite a good way. But I would say hats off to Hartlepool. Borough love Hartlepool, because if it wasn't for Hartlepool, in 1986 we wouldn't exist, because when they locked the doors at Riverside, financially crippled as we were going to be going out of business unless we could fulfil a fixture. And Hartlepool gave us the Victoria Ground to fulfil our fixture, which then the rest is history. We're still here. And, you know, it's all about kind of that relationship with them. So brilliant. And again, Northeast people, down to earth, straightforward, that kind of stuff. So, I'm not surprised they've adopted it early, but I'm also delighted that they've adopted it fully on that basis. So let's talk about clubs then. Who are the kind of people in clubs? You've got commercial, you've got support liaison, you've got, I guess, board members, you've got, I don't know, who's the ideal sweet spot connections? So fans listening to this today who've got connections at clubs. So there could be fan hub organisers, there could be, intern, they could work for the club. If we can open doors, who do we open doors to?
Yeah, so I think ultimately the SLOs are the ones on the ground floor and looking after the fans, but a lot of the time it's the commercial team that make the decisions.
What SLO? What SLO? What's an SLO?
Yeah, support liaison officers.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're the ones on the ground that are obviously hearing what the fans want and seeing what the fans need. But unfortunately, it's the commercial team that make decisions of bringing in new entities that are not charities. I mean, the contra deals that we can put people on, it involves the commercial team. So commercial managers, commercial directors, anyone from a commercial team that can make decisions on implementing this stuff. And I think once that decision's then made, we can then work and dovetail, and Connor and the team work brilliantly with the support liaison teams at the moment to then build a package that's bespoke to that club. And I think, Connor, I don't know if you can speak on over the first season how that data-driven stuff then looks the season after with the SLO as well.
Yeah, 100%. So in the corporate space, what we do is we go in for the first year, and it's pretty much just a data gathering exercise where we anything that comes through the inbox, anything that comes back from our engagement surveys that we'd send out to season ticket holders as well. So this would look like the first season for each club. Any sort of an all data we get back, we look at, and then we'll put on relevant workshops. The data drives essentially. So it could be that 67% of Borough fans say, "Do you know, I'm really struggling with finances over this season." So then we'll plonk a wellbeing workshop on, a financial wellbeing workshop on, that just helps each community, because as we touched on earlier, nationwide issues are completely different in each region. So yeah, it shows that the club are listening to their fans. It shows that we're listening. It shows that that sort of three-pronged attack is really working, and we're putting stuff on that's relevant to each community, because there's no point us going and crash bang wallop, let's put an anxiety workshop on, we can help with this, we can help with addiction, blah blah blah, and that doesn't land with each. It has to be tailored and bespoke to each community to get the best out of it, and we need that year of data in the background to be able to do our job effectively, essentially. Because like we say, Adam and I talk about mental health obviously so much, And I think we see a lot of people either think, well, I've got no mental health issues or I'm ready to kill myself. It's not
Yeah,
about that. It's
yeah,
everything else in the middle that we need to attack,
yeah,
because everyone has mental health, and you don't. And again, we sort of see huddle-up as a gym membership for your mind. Do you know what I mean? It's not so
Yeah.
you don't have to be on the verge of doing something outrageous to access support and deserve support. Essentially, if you're struggling with day to day, you're struggling with day to day. It's as simple as that, and you should have the same access to help as someone who's close to the edge. It's as simple as that. So yeah, we're massive advocates for that middle piece. That I think we see this in society now. The sort of the middle people are getting forgotten, aren't they? You're either rich or poor at the moment, and it's similar with mental health.
Yeah.
You're either absolutely fine, you're flying, or you're almost suicidal. So it can't be like that. We know there's so many people across the country, up and down football clubs as well, going into football clubs that must be suffering in that middle ground, and it sort of just feels like it's going into the ether a little bit. And we're just here to support those people get better, stay well, and just manage their mental health relevantly. So yeah, all the
Yeah.
data we get back goes into the workshops. It's reflected purely on numbers, and then we can put sort of relevant workshops in place at the clubs or on teams. We've got so many things we can send out, recordings, blah blah blah, you name it, we've got it resource wise. So
Yeah.
yeah, that data drives what we do essentially.
So
Excellent, Dom.
I remember we were saying in our last conversation, guys, when we first spoke. So Nick touched on it then about getting into the clubs and having conversations with the people at the clubs to get them on board. How are you finding? Because I remember we were saying how the Premier League clubs just weren't really interested. Are you finding the EFL clubs, are they willing to support it financially as well? Because I know that one of the important drivers from you guys as well was trying to get the message across that if you can get into these clubs, you can also finance it, which is a very powerful message. You're not really expecting the clubs to fund it, but are you finding that clubs are wanting to get involved financially as well and buy into what you're doing?
Not a lot, not many of them. No.
No.
I mean, we were talking about it yesterday, Connor and and I think, I think we've all settled down as football fans to be told that our clubs have no money, and me and Connor talked about it yesterday, and we just accept it. But it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. They have got money. They're just spending it in the wrong areas because we see even clubs that we've been to before, and you walk through the building, some of the stuff they're spending money on is crazy, but. The forward-thinking ones, proactive ones, they understand the commercial manoeuvring we can do to make this free of
Yeah.
charge to the club. Um, but I'd say definitely over 50% of clubs, if we've spoke to them to have any sort of financial skin in the game, then it's been backed up. No thanks, not today. But I'm not. That's not even me having a pop at clubs either. But if any sporting club around the country is telling you that you have access to Mind or you have access to Samaritans, it's like your company saying you've got private healthcare with the NHS. It's free. You've all got access to charities.
Yeah.
So we're saying we can get you a paid service for nothing. We just need people to listen. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the clubs that you're already working with, are they accepting that you're providing the financial aspect around that to put that service into those clubs?
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, we use the credibility piece of working with the club to go out and speak to businesses and other organisations in that local area. Because as Connor mentioned before, the football club is the hub of most towns, right? So if we can go out to, I don't know, 100 SMEs in the Middlesbrough area and say we're the official wellbeing partner of Middlesbrough, you're going to get a lot of people listen at least and have a conversation with you because they're going to think, well, if they've got that mammoth and they're at a place I'll go every Saturday, let's have a chat. And then once they get involved and realise Connor and I are normal people trying to build sustainable access for their staff, it's a no-brainer. So that's the way we're trying to work it. Get in with the club and then kind of spider web out from there. But it's just getting into the clubs to have that first conversation. So I think as soon as they hear mental health, a lot of people try and deep it, Dom. A lot of people think it's doom and gloom, and let's not do that for the fans. What's the liability on us? There's no uplift from the club financially. There's no work from the club at all with manpower, and there's no liability on them from a care point of view. So I'm definitely biased, but it's a no-brainer.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. So in terms of, because we also discussed this, so in our last conversation, I think it's important to get across as well. So when you go into a club and you're saying that you'll fund it, just explain to everyone and who's listening how you go about funding it. I think you mentioned to us off air before that you'll get local businesses involved and get them to sponsor you, or give them sponsorship, and they put into what you're doing within that club. So again, it's almost like tailored sponsorship or financial support around that community. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, so Man City will get a very different deal to Truro City, right?
Yeah.
So it's case by case, regardless of, because it involves the awareness piece for us as well. Because as you know, if we get onside boards up at Old Trafford, we've kind of job done. But yeah, so it depends on what they can do with regards to an awareness piece and a contra deal, which is basically what the club can give us from resources they've got. You know, whether that be awareness, match day tickets, sponsorship, stuff like that. Then that depends where they are up and down the pyramid. But ultimately, there's so many local companies that would love to fund this for their team. You know, there's a lot of business owners in every town that are season ticket holders at the club.
Yeah.
So we can easily pitch that for the club, and I'm confident within a week we can find sponsors for every single club if they gave us the time of day. Because if I go out to ABC Limited and say, using Truro City for example, look, we're looking to put in a wellbeing platform at Truro City. It's going to cost X amount for the season, but it will say onside powered by ABC Limited. They'll do it in a heartbeat because people care and they really do care. But if they know they can just put their name on it and let us do the work, and everyone wins.
And I think if you look at things like Middlesbrough, they've got some really good corporate regular sponsors who are embedded in the brand of Middlesbrough MFC. I'm thinking of one I know, a company that I've worked with called LV Logistics. They're a headline sponsor. LV Logistics have probably got something that they're doing within their own sort of staff community for mental health wellbeing, like first aiders and that kind of thing. But they're deeply embedded with Middlesbrough as a football club. Ironically, they're based over the road from the stadium. They weren't always, but they are now. And you might think then if we'd approach an LV Logistics, for example, and say, look, we are doing this with the MFC Foundation, or we're doing this as part of Middlesbrough Football Club, as a headline sponsor who are deeply invested in the relationship, you know, can we talk? And I love that because it means the clubs don't have to do the work. Because I think that's probably the biggest problem you've got is the clubs think, oh, it's just in the too difficult to do box this, you know, we like the idea of it, but it's just, we haven't got the resource to do it. We haven't got the, you know, the wherewithal. We just got so much going on. So taking away the barriers and the barriers to entry are brilliant. So talk to me about, I'm really interested in. So let's take Hartlepool as an example because they're up and running. What does it look like? What are the steps involved? So let's say we've got a listener here who's actively involved in Burton Albion or, you know, I don't know, whoever it might be, Wickham or whatever, and they say, look, you know, I'm an active fan, I'm a local business person, but I'm also quite connected to the senior members of the board at my local club, just from whatever it might be. What are the steps involved to go from, oh, I'm quite interested, to we've got an up and running program and something in place? How easy is it? How quick is it? And what do they, you know, who's doing what at what point?
So from a commercial standpoint, if they're involved at the club or if they're a business owner that goes and watches the club, they just talk to us and they can utilise any budget really. But if they've got a social impact or CSR budget that they want to utilise towards something more direct, you know, because if you've thrown thousands of pounds at cancer research in Macmillan, then absolutely awesome. I'm not saying stop doing that, but that could go into the CEO's back pocket. Whereas this, you're going to see every single week, and you're going to get direct impact and good news stories. So it's just a case of finding out what you get from a commercial standpoint from myself. We'll then go liaise with the club and say, look, we've got live funds. They're ready to go. We can implement this framework. Also, what are you going to give this sponsor? Because Colin and I, we don't need the hospitality tickets or anything like that. But the club needs to give the sponsor something, right? So then we go back and say, look, full package is here now. We can implement onside at your football club. You also get 8 hospitality tickets, bit of awareness, PR on the website, and everyone signs on the dotted line. Then we're ready to go. And then we can be as light touch or as heavily involved as they kind of want, right, Colin?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, the workshops at the end of year one show that sort of direct impact to communities. So any of the sponsors that do sponsor on side, that they would be responsible for putting those workshops on, in the sense of they would get the credit for the workshops. It'd be workshop X sponsored by ABC Limited, as I say. Adam and I have sort of there's no ego in this for us. We're just two lads from Northampton that want to help, essentially, and we've built a huge sort of resource of fantastic people. We've got an unbelievable team that are having a huge sort of impact. And we're so confident in what we do. We're so passionate in what we do. We believe in it so much. Yeah, and there are so many people up and down the country that do care as well, and they do want to have an impact on their community.
Yeah.
And they've got the funds to do so, they've got the resource to do so, but just don't quite know how to sometimes. So, like Adam says, we've seen so many people sponsoring golf days or sponsoring cricket days or whatever it might be. That fantastic. Like we say, we'd never say don't do that. We'll never sort of tell anybody what to do with their money, obviously. But this is a direct all year round impact across the community, and that they can have a minimal fee as well, to be honest with you guys. It's really sort of, attractive, we feel. So anyone can get in touch, they can, obviously.
And importantly, it's their community, isn't it? Which is important. And I think, so going back, just take a step back there, Connor, you mentioned, our team. So you've got a team. What are the people who work or volunteer or support huddle-Up? What have you got? You got your match day people, your huddle buddies, but then what about the actual accessing the services beyond the huddle buddies? What have you got? How does that work?
Yeah, so any sort of on-side huddle buddies that we have at the stadium will be mental health first aid trained, either by us, or usually the clubs have somebody in and around their club, or volunteers that are trained in mental health first aid. Like we touched on earlier, that's all they need to be. Adam and I'd obviously have a chat with them beforehand, and just teach. And the way we sort of get our training across, Nick, is we just want it to be empathetic. Do you know what I mean? Just a bit of empathy.
Just a quick question, because I'll take that example with LV Logistics in Middlesbrough. If LV Logistics have got trained first aid, mental health first aiders, could they then, as branded up with LV Logistics supporting huddle-Up, be volunteers on the day on your huddle buddy stand? So there's extra ways. I'm just trying to work out there's extra ways to get involved community wise. Sorry to interrupt you there, Connor. Go
No,
on.
that's ideal for us. Like we touched on earlier, it's like it's okay. Adam and I sending up someone from Northampton up there to man a stand at Borough. It's probably not going to land as well as either a Borough volunteer or a volunteer or employee from the sponsor. Even better,
Yeah,
because the link there, you know what I mean, it works seamlessly then. And then obviously when they come through to the inbox, as we touched on earlier, that huddle buddy would be that live sort of version of the inbox. They're there to signpost, and then they come back to our team that are fully trained in the background via the email that the club would get that's set up when they sign up, come through to our team that deal with any issues that come through. 48-hour SLA to get back to the season ticket holders, just to say, yeah, we've got your email, great stuff. We will get you in front of the relevant level of support that we believe you need within 7 days. So it's a 48-hour period for our team to diagnose any issue that comes in. As I say, I think it's about 85% of the stuff that comes through, Nick, that's sort of categorized as that low level work-based stress. As we spoke about earlier, that stuff that seems to go into the ether that no one sort of speaks about. If we get something that comes in and says we've got a bereavement issue or an addiction issue, that they're quite easy to spot, right? So that's easy to signpost as well. But yeah, anyone who comes through season ticket holders will be in front of the relevant level of support within 7 days, but that's dealt with our back house team. Yeah,
I think it's you hit a key niche area, so not a key demographic area there, though. Of 85% is work-based stress. Well, that's how it starts, and absolutely, it can escalate into something else. So I think the service you offer as well is also huge, because if people do buy into it and want to help themselves, and they're at an early stage of feeling there's something wrong, they can deal with it before it escalates into something else. So 85%, that's a huge percentage of people, which shows that sometimes actually they could be helped and treated really well really early before it escalates into something that's much more difficult to help and treat, really. I think that's massively important, mate. Yeah. And it also helps that you know those figures, because you've done your research in terms of knowing what the triggers are and what's going on in certain areas. I'm also interested, guys, if the clubs you're currently working with, and when you've gone in there, once it's up and running, how have you found the clubs becoming more involved once it's in and embedded and it's working? Have you found them wanting to be more engaged? How's that gone once you started?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dom, you can't deny numbers, right?
Yeah.
So once we're in at a club, if we're in for however long it is. I mean, we can run engagement surveys that we do twice a year throughout the season as well. So once we've got those numbers back, and once we've got figures of people coming through our inbox live telling us that these issues are happening in their stadiums, people in their stadiums are suffering with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You can't ignore that, Dom. It's mental health is one of those things that we all sort of throw out there. Well, everyone's got it. There's so many people struggling out there, but how many? Why? And we hear the numbers of 1 in 2. Well, by those numbers, then someone in your household is going to be struggling with it as well.
Absolutely.
We all think 1 in 2, but that's happening down the road, don't we? It's one of those, and I think as any sort of large group of people, particularly in football grounds, as we touched on the demographic earlier, there has to. It's so negligible to think that it's not happening in your grounds, and there's people in your grounds that are not struggling. They are. So when we can report back those figures, those numbers, what can't speak can't lie, right? So if there's numbers coming back in that are clearly showing that people are using our services, football clubs can't ignore that. And then obviously us putting on the workshops that are relevant to the issues that are coming in just helps the whole thing land so much better. And it should be, like Adam touched on earlier, it seems to be doom and gloom around mental health so much. We want to try and change that as well. We want to make these workshops fun. So yeah, it might be a financial management workshop. Yes, we know that the community is struggling financially, but let's put a workshop on that's a little bit engaging. Let's put a workshop on that makes people think, I want to go to that workshop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And get the sense of community there as well.
Okay, we're having a little bit of an issue with your connection there, Conor, but that's fine. We're okay with that. I've got a final question, really, and then I'm going to ask you if you want anything we've not covered that you want to add, which is fine. But so, if you're a qualified mental health professional or first aider, or you've got an interest in that, if you're an active fan in the fan base, the fan hub, or whatever it might be, or just active on social media, you might run a social media group for your club or that kind of thing. Genuinely interested in fan welfare, on well-being. How can those people help support what your ambitions are, and how can they help you to get into as many of the EFL 72 as possible and as quickly as possible? What's the call to action from this podcast for people who have been inspired to think, you know what, we could do more? And the bit that gets me and I really like is you're either really happy or suicidal, which isn't the case. It's that middle silent 85% majority, isn't it? So if you care about that 85% middle majority, you might have been affected by this yourself, you might have come through it, or you might have accessed services before that, whatever it might be. How can people help you to get into the EFL 72? What do people need to do as a call to action? I'm going to put your contact details on the slide and in the show notes so they can do that. What do you want from people today, guys?
Yeah, so we just our thing is our mantra is let's get people talking. And whether that's amongst themselves at a football match or to Conor and I, that's all it's about. So just talk to us. Whether you're struggling, whether you want to help someone who's struggling, whether you're interested in mental health in general, reach out and we'll have a conversation with you. Even if you're just looking to dip your toe into becoming trained in helping people, or if you are struggling or you've got a partner at home or a kid, just reach out, because we're the most personable service in this industry. And I hate calling it an industry because humans aren't an industry, we're such people. And I hate the fact that these big conglomerate companies, AXA and Bupa, who do great stuff in private healthcare, just have a nod to well-being in the background. That's not what we're about. We're not a massive company. We're an SME, but with real people who are going through the same stuff. Some of our huddle buddies struggle. But with all these people you go to, if you go and see a therapist or a counsellor, they're not all okay. Like, they're human beings as well. So you'll get empathy from us, you'll get support, and you'll get insight. So yeah, whether, like you say, you're looking to dip a toe and you're looking to support people, reach out to Conor and I, and we'll help you on your pathway to do that. If you do have contacts at a club, please reach out to us and let us know who, and we'll get in touch with them if you've seen your community could benefit from this. But most importantly, if you're struggling and listening to this, please just reach out. I know it's the toughest bit, but there's no white coats and clipboards here. We're real people. We'll have a chat with you, and it's not going to go straight from zero to clinical. We'll just have a conversation and see what's going on.
Excellent. I like the idea as well if people are connected to people in the clubs, because sometimes you need that door open, don't you? You just need someone to just. My commitment to you is I'm going to make some introductions. I know, and I'm connected to commercial director, fan liaison, support liaison at Middlesbrough. I'll make some introductions. I wanted to wait till we've done the podcast because I'll send them this podcast as an example of kind of the things that behind the scenes that they should be aware of and how it worked. But I'm hoping other fans will do the same. And, you know, if you want Huddle Buddies to volunteer, anyone who's interested in, qualified in, or could support, you know, mental health first aid at a club on a match day, I guess they're really valuable to you as well, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So it's just putting that jigsaw together essentially. So it's the buy-in from the club. We do all the stuff in the background. If we can get somebody that's tied to the club that's trained in mental health first aid, and they can man the on-side points for us, just be that sort of live version of the inbox, then fantastic. But yeah, I mean, again, the beauty in our service, I think, as along with many things, is in the simplicity of it. It is as simple as reaching out and getting the support. It really is as simple as that.
Yeah.
So the more buy-in we get, obviously, the better. The more resource we have on site, the better, obviously. But yeah, any doors that we can sort of smash down, the better, because as we say, there's people out there struggling. And again, the demographic of people that go to football grounds are not the demographic of people that talk about this sort of thing regularly. They are the demographic of people that find it more difficult, whether it's a male thing, whether it's an age thing, it doesn't really matter. We know that this demographic find it harder to reach out. Like Adam said, that sort of first step is the hardest. But as we say, we are personable people. We're here to help. This is all we want to do. So yeah, as much resource as we can get, the better. Anyone that feels like they want to get involved or could get involved, just give Adam a shout.
Excellent. I suspect we've covered virtually everything that we wanted to. Is there anything else that we haven't, that you think, oh, I wish we'd talk about that a bit more? Is there any, as a final note, something you want to add or just cover, or that we haven't asked you that you want to just get in there? Adam, you're nodding. What is it you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think it's an odd one that I've been waiting to kind of speak about it before we finish the show, even from the start, because it's an odd tie back to Borough as well. But I also want people to know that we've been affected by this. So the lived experience thing gets thrown about a lot now, because if people have stubbed their toe, they now have lived experience of mental health issues. But we had a lad called Anthony Chapman who played for our football club when we were 18. He was from Borough, worked in construction, and lived in Northampton for 6 months doing construction, drinking on the beers every day, on everything else as well. And he ended up dying by suicide. His name is Anthony Chapman, and everyone called him Happy Chappy. That he was the life of the party, like Don was touching on earlier. So don't think you're coming through to a team of people who have just walked out of Westminster with qualifications and stuff like that. They're going to talk to. It's normal, everyday people. That's what we are. We're football fans. We're people that go to the terraces. We're people that go through the turnstiles, and we know what you're going through. And if you come to us and say you've got a drink problem, we'll put you in touch with a huddle buddy who's either gone through that or has a partner that's gone through that and has been affected by alcohol. Same if it's been affected by gambling. You know, a lot of counsellors and therapists are taught not to empathise. Colin, I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. If you can sit across from another human being who says, I've been through that, mate, then it's half the battle. And he touched on it earlier, Connor, that we're either okay or borderline suicidal. That bit in the middle is an issue. And mental health and counselling stuff is becoming fashionable. That's dangerous as well. You know, a lot of the stuff is just life. If you're struggling financially a little bit and you're a bit skint, or your car's in the MOT, your dog's at the vets, your partner's doing your head in, work stuff, that's life. You don't need therapy for that. You need a conversation.
That's massive, and that is absolutely 100% spot on, mate. It is. I think for me, and I don't mind putting it out there, because when we spoke off air, guys, we had our chat a few weeks ago. And Nick knows, and I suffer with my mental health. I suffer with severe depression, and I go through difficult times. And one of my most powerful medicines is talking to people. My family members have gone through it. Nick is a big support. I have people around me, and they're not qualified people. They're just good friends or good listeners, or people who I can bounce off, or people who are going through the same thing. And I also want to put it out there because I think it's really important, because it vouches for how normal and truthful you guys are. After our meeting 2 weeks ago, Adam emailed me straight away, didn't you, man? And said, I'm here to chat. Gave me his number. I've been really busy with work, and I emailed Adam the other day and said apologies for not getting in touch, but explain my situation. He was straight back with a voicemail saying, great, anytime, I'm here. So these guys are the real deal. Yeah. They back themselves up. Adam's just already doesn't know me really that well, and he's there.
He doesn't know you from Adam. You were going to say that, didn't you?
Yeah,
you were going to say he doesn't know you from Adam.
I had to correct myself, but I do think it's really what Adam says is really important. Sometimes I think a lot what makes people nervous is actually thinking they're going to speak to some kind of health practitioner or someone who's just qualified in something but doesn't really know how to empathize with them. What's really powerful is these guys have got connections to just normal people who've been through it, who can just give you some support or have a conversation or just lighten the load. And that's what it's about. And that's the difference sometimes of being a tipping point, to feel like you're going to do something silly to not doing it. So those things are huge. They are.
That's a brilliant finish for the episode, Dom. What I would like to add to that, in terms of, that's exactly why you and I have chosen huddle-Up as our EFL, well, as our support mechanism. We're gonna promote you on every episode as the Half and Half Scarf football podcast, brought to you in association with huddle-Up, and put your details on every episode. We're going to keep promoting it, going to keep dropping it in, because I think the work that you do and are going to do is brilliant. We've got access to an audience that's growing. Our audience represent lots and lots of different clubs from all sorts of, backgrounds and backdrops. So, I hope we can help with that. So on that basis, guys, I'd like to thank you for being brilliant guests today. But I'd also like to say that on the, those who watch it on YouTube, we've got the content details and contact details for Adam and Connor. We've got the huddle-Up email, and we've got the LinkedIn company page for huddle-Up UK. We're going to promote that every episode, and we'll make sure that we continue to do that. And the last thing is, obviously, this is episode 36. From Dom and I's perspective, we've got another episode to come out, episode 37. As ever, we always like to keep those topics current. A lot happens over a 10-day period between recording and release date. So we're recording another one in a couple of days' time. We'll decide on the day, what's caught our eye, caught our attention. There's never anything not to talk about with football, so very confident we'll have another great episode. Also conscious that today, potentially for some of you, might be triggering, or it might be a bit heavy. But if it is triggering or heavy, or it has, then I encourage you to go to Adam and Connor at the team at huddle-Up and just say, you know what, a bit like Adam did with Dom when he mentioned in an off-air meeting, his sort of struggles. Can we have a chat? Can you put me in touch with someone? So, guys, it's been fantastic. We are delighted to be on board. I'll do all I can to open the doors at Middlesbrough, the doors that I can, maybe help you to knock on. I'd encourage any fan listening to do the same and help as much as they can, or just reach out and say, I'm here to volunteer, or I'm here to, I'm a mental health first aider, I'd like to get involved, or I can open a door at my club at this level, or I'm a business owner who supports Wycombe Wanderers and I'd like my company to support what you're doing. Any way, shape or form, get back to the guys at huddle-Up. They're going to do some great work. They're already doing some great work, and it's really about one person at a time. So thanks, guys. Thanks for your contributions today. It's been really, really good. And we'll wish you luck, and we'll keep in touch, yeah?
Perfect. Thanks, Nick.
Awesome.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Nick. Cheers, Dom. Thanks for having us.
Guys. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.